Good morning. I'm John Casper with the Oshkosh Chamber, and thank you for joining us on our first of two uh, 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 Zoom conferences or discussions about using LinkedIn and video marketing to increase your sales. Today we have again Michael Raymond, president of Imagine Road Productions, who will lead us through that discussion. And it's really about putting together scalable marketing systems that you can take advantage of, and you're using a professional network of LinkedIn, and use this kind of video to increase sales and develop more leads for your organization. And in the first session today, we'll focus primarily on best practices for LinkedIn, including effective messaging and customizing your profile to get engagement with your select audience. So with that, I am going to have Mike Raymond take it from here. And again, for those of you listening in, there is a question button on the bottom. If you have questions through any time, just use that, ask your question, and we will address those. I think, Mike, you may be doing that throughout your presentation, or we may hold some to the end. And we are recording this, so we can we'll load this up and you can view it again, and we'll get it out to other people. So with that, Mike, take it away.
Great. Good morning, everybody. And I got to start off by saying Happy Veterans Day. But I'm Michael Raymond, and I'm the president of Imagine Road Productions. And we're gonna keep this kind of casual. I'm still drinking my coffee, but take a sip there. So if at any time you have any questions as I give you all this information, please feel free to ask the question. I'll be checking the chat box every so often. As we get started, I don't really know where you're at with LinkedIn. I mean, some of you might be very advanced. And so I'm going to try to, explain some of the general things and then also get into some more specific things. So if there's something that you want me to address, please feel free to let me know. So to begin with, again, I'm Michael Raymond. I'm the owner of Imagine Road Productions. I've lived in Oshkosh since 2001. It's amazing. It's almost been 20 years. I've been a chamber member for the last 2 years. I have a 12-year-old son that attends South Park Junior High, bachelor's in multimedia journalism. I do a lot of work with documentary filmmaking, family legacy videos, storytelling. Just submitted my first documentary that I'm excited about to a couple film festivals. So I really enjoy that part of it, is storytelling. And actually, I'm offering these holiday keepsake videos. So if you know someone who's interested in that, there's the link for you. But my favorite outreach tactic, as far as digital marketing, because that's the brunt of what I do, is video marketing. But my favorite outreach method is LinkedIn lead generation with short videos and educational series. And then the last thing, as far as introducing myself, my team includes other filmmakers and other digital marketing specialists around the globe that we all kind of collaborate and we work to help each of our clients succeed. So it's kind of an interesting network in that. But anyways, like John had mentioned, this first session, we're going to be looking primarily at LinkedIn. And so we're going to talk about best practices to begin with for LinkedIn, customizing your LinkedIn profile. And then we're going to look at effective messaging. What's the best way to message? And then we're going to take a look at Sales Navigator, and then some automation methods, whether that's helpful. We'll look at some, do's and don'ts with that. So first of all, as far as best practices, companies that post weekly on LinkedIn see a 2 times lift in engagement with their content. So it's important that, whatever you do with LinkedIn, you post consistently and you have kind of a schedule for it. So it's the same with blog postings or social media postings. Being consistent is really important. And also, it's important also to know what type of content to post. So even though I specialize in doing video content, I also do graphic-based content, text. Graphics work really well. In fact, I pulled an example here from Melanie Dodaro. She's a first connection. She does very well with her posting, as far as a graphic, it could be an infographic, an article, and then, just a little bit of text, but then also, a link. So images typically result in a 2 times higher comment rate. And so we've seen custom image collages, 3 to 4 images in one post. They perform really well. Video content gets an even higher engagement. And it's important to do it properly, as far as, making sure, for instance, that if you're targeting people that will be watching the video in an area where they're not going to have sound, for instance, you might want to make sure that you add the captions, to it. Also, a video that's uploaded natively to LinkedIn, which means you actually upload, instead of just posting a link like to a YouTube video, something that you've published on YouTube, that you actually upload the file itself, and whether it's a 1 or 2 minute file, but that'll get a lot more engagement, so that you'll get more viewers with that. And that goes the same for Facebook and Instagram as well. So even though you can also post your videos on YouTube, and you should, there are social media platforms that you really will get a lot more engagement if you upload natively. And now this would be a whole different workshop, but Facebook just in fact made a bunch of changes where if you use outbound links, like for a YouTube video link, you're not going to get as much organic reach. But anyways, so and the statistic here I found that I just pulled, which is recent, well, February, Wiseowl found 38% of marketers post video content on LinkedIn. 75% of those who use video on the platform found it effective. The other thing too, as far as best practice, is always to use LinkedIn analytics to look at performance and create content. Now, I don't have anything. I should have included that. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to get to it, but next session I'll do a real quick overview of using LinkedIn analytics, because everything that you do should involve assessing the performance of it and making changes depending on how things perform. So that includes your messaging, it includes the types of images you're using. It's all based on you being successful in engaging your buyer or the person that's going to use your product or service. And so it all begins really with having that buyer persona, and targeting that. And I just have to mention, I get so carried away. I want to make sure that I keep an eye on the clock, so 10 minutes have passed already. So to begin with, before you do anything else, you have to look at your profile and your description. I kind of put up this one of mine, this is kind of the latest profile. I've gone through many adjustments with this. I've changed it depending on things that I've presented. If it really needs to be specific to what you're working on, and so but it's something that's kind of in a dynamic state. But the basics are, you want to choose the right profile picture for LinkedIn. I mean, you want it to be professional. I actually took this picture last year, and you can't see my fish tank in the background. It's kind of blurred out, but I actually, in this picture, I was actually kneeling when I took this. And it was just a selfie with my camera phone, but I was trying to get the right angle and the right appearance. And I think it turned out all right. I got some good feedback on it. So when you look at profile pictures, you do want to get feedback, from people that are trusted people, not from your family or friends that are going to say, oh, that looks beautiful. Try to get enough feedback, where you can, really decide. I mean, I guess you could overthink it as well. Now, the other thing is there's a headline section that you can modify, and this is the background photo. And, I consider, this is important property. I see many LinkedIn profiles, where they just have a blank space here. And it's not very hard to put a background photo in. I ended up, when I started working with LinkedIn, I had actually, it was a couple years ago, I had hired a firm, to do LinkedIn lead generation for me. and I still wasn't really clear on, how to automate messages and how to do things. And they had put together, a different type of background photo for me. And that was where, I started using, like, for instance, little messages up here, contact me today. Now, this isn't a clickable type link, but anyways, but it's nice to be able to use that real estate up here. The next thing in this is that you really want to make your headline more than just a job title. So, they give you options on LinkedIn. You could have your job title, like Michael Raymond, video marketing strategist, or you can have like a headline here, and you're allowed a certain number of spaces. And, one of the things I want to point out, in case I forget, is that you all have an opportunity, as I'd mentioned in this program description, is that, I'll do kind of an audit of your headline and your description. So I'll tell you how to, we can do that at the end of this, but just to give you a heads up on that. So the headline, needs to stand out. I've changed this over and over many times, and a lot of it just depends on how, again, performance. So right now, I have it like this, but basically, using some type of it needs to be active language. So because you have a very limited amount of characters, you want to, really figure it out, very specifically. I have it right now for video marketing, and I've gone back and forth between, should I use digital marketing? Should I use video marketing? What is it specifically that I do? And how is that going to engage my audience? But so right now, it's a very active type of phrase. And, I actually, no, I have to go back here. I was just saying that I actually can't see the questions. So I can't, because I have to stop sharing when I do. But anyway, so I can't see the chat box for whatever reason. So, it's over here. Okay. Anyways, so in just another slide or so, I'll check to see if there's any questions. But so anyways, and then the other thing with my headline is I list my website there. So now this headline is going to appear anytime you engage with someone. So whether you're commenting on someone's article or post, whether you're writing an article or post, anytime you're interacting on LinkedIn, they're going to see this headline. And so these first words are really important, and also having some type of call to action there. So the other thing is you want to turn your summary into your story. And so I have that on the next slide. But declare war on buzzwords, don't use cliches. Try to get away from them. There's always synonyms that you can use. Grow your network, list your relevant skills. So here's an example of a description, kind of like a summary. And this is the about section. Now you can see here, here's my headline. So that appears, and that's how it would appear then when you're posting. My summary just goes in, it's written kind of in a journalistic fashion. So meaning that it's kind of an inverted pyramid where I have the most important information right up at front. So when you're posting or sharing, or when people are looking at your profile, this first paragraph here is what's going to stand out, what they're going to be able to see. And then they're going to have to click on some kind of a drop down, to see the rest of it. So you want the most important information to be up at front. And in fact, up at front, on front as well, you want to have a link of some kind. So the goal with LinkedIn is to develop connections, to network, to identify people that you want to develop this relationship with, and that could potentially, where you could potentially help each other, and then to move that conversation off of LinkedIn. So the best practice for LinkedIn, and I'll be saying this a lot when we get into messaging, but it's not to be overtly salesy in the beginning, or even actually at the end. I mean, you don't want to really sell or come off selling. I mean, basically you're there to network and to see how you can help each other. And then if that is something that leads to kind of a further collaboration networking, then you're gonna take that off, into like maybe an email conversation or a phone call or something such as that. So so this is just an example. So all throughout here I have little links. I kind of get into my story and what I do. And I've done this pretty thorough. Now this is when I look at this now, and again, I'm always thinking about making changes, but when I look at this now, it looks a little lengthy to me. But again, you know, as I interact with people, they're going to be reading this and checking out my profile, and that's going to provide the foundation for for our networking relationship moving forward. So just if you have any questions, I did find over here on this side. Okay, I don't have any. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them. I just figured out where the Q&A section is, so I can see if there are any as they come up. But I'm hoping. I mean, this is all pretty straightforward, and and I should also say that there's a lot of content out there, that really drives into these principles. And again, it's sometimes it's experimenting and getting started with it, putting something together, adjusting it, tweaking it. It's never like good to go and I'm never going to touch it again. It's always something that's evolving. So for messaging, I mentioned that it's important not to be real salesy. I've had quite a few people, I mean, many people that, the first thing they do is, they connect with me, and then immediately, even in the connection message, they're trying to sell me on something or tell me what they do and, how they can help me. And some of this has to do with, the law of numbers. I mean, it goes back to the thing of, there's so many people. If you send out like an invite, to so many people, there's a certain percentage that are going to connect with you. A certain percentage of those people are going to be interested in what you do. So it's a numbers game to a lot of people. And so rather than personalizing it and going back and trying to cultivate a relationship or a network or a conversation, cultivating a conversation, people feel it's easier just to hit them over the head and say, okay, this is what I do. Do you want it or not? And then they move on, which is, there's a lot of outreach strategies like that. And you just move on to the next person and don't waste your time. But LinkedIn is a little like that, but it's not. It's about networking and trying to have a conversation and identifying those that that will connect with you or will are good connections, I guess you should say. But some of the things you don't want to do, is you never want to send a request without a message attached. So that's the one thing that a lot of people do as well, and it's a time thing. It's easier to just click the button, connect, invite. I remember a long time ago I had someone that once suggested that I invite 60 people a day, and I just look for who might be a good connection. I click the button, I click the button, I click the button. But you really want to be targeted in your approach. And in fact, the free version of LinkedIn, not the Sales Navigator, which we'll get through, it does only allow you a certain number of connection requests. And I forget what that number is, but I mean, when you hit your limit, what you need to do is if people aren't responding and aren't connecting with you, you need to go in manually and withdraw your connection request, so that you don't reach that upper limit. I've never reached that upper limit, but I know it exists. The other thing is you don't want to write multiple paragraphs about yourself or ramble on. I've made this mistake before where I've been having a conversation with one of the groups that I used to try to target or try to interact with was more like dermatologists and plastic surgeons specifically. And I remember I was doing having an early conversation with a dermatologist, and we were going back and forth, and it took me a couple times before I really, asked the question I've been wanting to ask, and it was too long. I should have asked him earlier. So just don't ramble on and on, but get right to the point. The other thing, like I mentioned, don't pitch your product or service in your connection request. There's some things that are just tacky. Don't ask for favors because you really haven't earned that, yet. And then, some people, will come out and say, I have thousands and thousands of connections. If you'd like to network with any of my connections, or that's like some kind of value add that they say, you should talk to me because I have all these connections. That's something that you don't do. And then also, try to be creative in your message. I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. It's kind of generic. It just shows that you don't really care enough to personalize it. And this also goes for, there's a lot of, LinkedIn has a lot of generic copy, for like if you want to wish someone a happy birthday, happy anniversary, congratulations on your position. There's a lot of generic copy, and it'll just automatically, put that out there unless you personalize it. And so you always want to take a couple minutes and just personalize it. Even just a couple of words, like instead of saying, happy birthday, saying something like, I hope you had a great day, or, it's great, or, something personal. And if you use something from their profile, something personal from their profile, that's even better, So here's an example of, a LinkedIn message that I've put down here. And feel free, like if you want to, copy these slides, you can just do screenshots. There's a lot of, like I said, samples and templates. I've done a lot of research on messaging. And there's always different ways of shifting things, but sometimes it's nice to have something to get started with. So feel free to copy and use these. So this would be someone that you'd like to work with. An example would be, hi, I've noticed your presence here on LinkedIn. I'm so impressed by your work. Now, don't say that if it's not true. I'd love to see if we can work together on, say something specific about a project. Would you be open to discussing via a quick phone call or over coffee? So again, looking forward to possibly working with you. Now, so this is an example of someone that, they want to connect with someone, and they're also trying to move it off of LinkedIn as well, or at least setting the stage for that, which is, I think, important. Here's another example. Hi, I saw the work that you did for blah, 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 and I'm super impressed. My company is looking for help on, and your skills might be a great fit. Let me know if you're interested in working together. I can be reached here at chat soon, and keep up the good work. Now, what I've noticed about these two messages is, well, they're both asking for, to contact off of LinkedIn. And I believe that these are connection messages, so these are initial messages where they haven't connected yet, which, it doesn't normally follow what I do, but again, it's again trying to move the conversation off of LinkedIn. So, noted it's friendly, casual, not salesy. There's some value add there. I'm looking for some help. I think that whenever you ask people for input or for help, rather than you offering help, I think that seems for me to be more effective. Can I get some input on this? Or I see that you have experience with this and this and this. I'm working on this project and I'd love to get your input, that type of thing. And direct as well. So don't beat around the bush. So a personalized greeting plus how you know them. That's always a good thing. I know you because you're another member of the Oshkosh Chamber of Commerce, or you went to the same school I did. You worked for this company, and so did I. And then why you want to connect, plus polite, friendly sign off. So those are kind of the ingredients there. Okay, so to continue with that, here's a simple invitation that I use, and so this would be kind of an invitation that seems to has worked for me. It's not very customized. It's kind of a general invitation. Hi Kevin, I see we know many of the same people, and I'm always looking to expand my network. Please accept my invitation to connect on LinkedIn. So it's very cut and dry. The thing about invitation messages that you should know is, a lot of people are in this thing where, they'll just automatically accept, any invitation that comes in. They click yes, yes, yes. And often they won't respond. Like if someone invites me to connect on LinkedIn, and I invite all of you to connect with me, but a lot of times they'll hit the connect, and then they won't say, well, thanks for connecting, or let's have coffee, or let's have a phone call. They'll connect, and then and the thing about it is it's a time. What I've learned is that there's a time component, and that means when you connect with people initially, there's an amount of time where you can successfully determine, can we offer anything to each other? Can we help each other? I see Kevin, there's maybe I'd like to get his input on something, or maybe I can help him, or whatever. But I send out that connection message. He responds, he connects. If I let that go, for a couple months, and then try to go back to it, he's gone. He's forgotten me. We don't have that initial spark anymore. And so it's really important. I do a lot of LinkedIn lead generation for clients, and I can generate a whole pipeline full of leads, as we'll see in the case study that I'm going to share with you coming up. But if those leads aren't, followed up on, if people aren't engaged, if you don't try to set up phone calls, even I do 15-minute exploratory calls, where it's not like a sales call, but it's just trying to determine whether there's a synergy, or whether, there's some kind of spark there, or whatever. But if you don't do that, then it's kind of like the lead is blown. It's going to take a lot more to try to resurrect that. So a simple connection message could also be, so once they connect then with you, then you send them out another message, and it could look like this. Thanks for accepting my invitation, Kevin. How's everything going at Mercy Regional Cancer Center? I enjoy taking time to get to know my new connections and the work that they do. Please let me know if you have any time next week to chat. Have a great weekend. So this is something that I had a lot of people, would respond to me with. The idea of, that I want to take some time to get to know my new connections, and learn more about what they do. So again, you're asking them to kind of tell you what they do. So you're not telling them what you do. You're asking them to tell you what you do, and usually that's more effective. And then to be direct and to ask them for time. So here's an example of kind of resurrecting, or trying to resurrect an old connection. So you've made that connection, this was a doctor. It was an actual case I had, and I had tried having conversations with them. I think it was someone, again, that just automatically hit connect. But again, having someone take time to have a conversation with you, is another thing. But so I ended up, you get to a point where you want to be really direct, in my opinion. This is my opinion. So this message read this: I apologize for being too forthcoming. Sorry about the typos, Dr. Fine. I often get ahead of myself. Out of curiosity, have you seen a rise in skin cancer rates? Have a great weekend. Now, the reason I asked that was because he had just published, an article, or he had articles, and I knew that his specialty was skin cancer, dermatology. So, and Dr. Fine is a dermatologist. And so I was asking for his opinion on something, and now I didn't get it, so it didn't work. But it's just kind of an idea. So again, non-salesy, direct, trying to move the connection forward, showing interest in them and in what they do, and in their expertise. So the bottom line, for messaging also is to test, test, and test. So you make adjustments that are based on how well things perform. Things didn't go real well with the Dr. Fine trying to resurrect that connection. And so I would try something different, next time. But it's always a good idea, to look at people's profile and to find something that genuinely interests you about their profile. Don't use generic things. So anyways, we have a question, our first question. So I'm gonna go over here. And so what would you say your success rate is with acquiring new clients through these tactics? So, and thanks for the question, Heather. I've actually been very successful, and we'll look at a case study that I have coming up. A lot of it comes down to, again, kind of personalizing the messaging and being able to move them into a conversation. So, and I'll show you how I do that, with Calendly. I would say that, the case study I'm going to show you, we set up a whole LinkedIn campaign. We sent out 100 invites every day. Over 3 months, we got 4,500 new connections. And I was able to, our goal for that was to book, sales calls or exploratory 15-minute calls directly on my client's calendar link. And so we were able to get 4 to 5, which was our prediction, 4 to 5 15-minute phone calls a week, which I felt was pretty good. Now, the problem was, you need to still have a salesperson or someone that's going to be able to close the sales. And so I'll talk to you about that. Like I had mentioned, you can get a whole pipeline full of leads, but if you don't follow up with them and close the sales, or establish, if you just let the leads go, you're not going to really be able to get the end result, which would be increased sales. But again, great question. So getting back to this messaging thing, always be genuine, non-salesy, add value to your new network connection. Don't let them, like I said, don't let too much time go before attempting to move the conversation forward. Find something in their profile that's genuinely of interest or pertinent to your connection. Focus on their awards, posts, articles, achievements, that type of thing. And like I said, I think I mentioned all this as far as generic replies, so always personalize it. And then all opportunities to get in front of your connection and reinforce indirectly who you are and what you do with your profile header and description are good. So again, every time that you're interacting with these people, your profile, your header, and your description they're seeing it. So it's that 80-20 rule. So there are going to be people that, say for instance you're a bookkeeper and you have bookkeeping services, or say you're a realtor, and you're providing content, to help people sell and buy homes. I have a realtor that I work with as well. But so they might not be right now ready to buy or sell a home, but as you go in your conversation and you're networking and you're putting out articles and whatever, value-added content, there will come a time where they need your services. And so by staying in front of them, the happy birthdays that are personalized, the happy anniversaries, those things are all, you get notifications, wish so-and-so a happy birthday, or wish, congratulate Robert on his promotion. So all of those are opportunities to get back in front of them, with a personalized message. And then they're going to see your profile header and description again, and they're going to be reminded. They're going to say, oh, that's right. I have this person, he's an expert, and I should give him a call. So anyway, so that's all part of it. I wonder, there we go. So, okay. So moving forward, and I hope that answered your question, Heather. So again, we'll be taking a look at that a little bit more in this case study. There are a lot of statistics out there, as far as, other people have done a lot more thorough statistical analysis of, of these methods. And so mine is, I guess, more anecdotal, I guess you'd call it. But so moving in to Sales Navigator now. So Sales Navigator, it's a premium feature on LinkedIn. It does cost a little bit. It's about $80 a month. And there's some different types of things to use. It's a premium feature. It helps businesses in generating leads on LinkedIn. It allows you to kind of easily find your target audience and connect with them in just a few clicks. So it allows you to do really refined searches. So like if you're looking for someone local and you want them, to be like maybe an HR director, or maybe you want them to be an entrepreneur. Maybe you want them just to be in the Fox cities or in Madison or Chicago or whatever. You can really dial down the demographics. And then there's another function which I'll talk about, which are in-mails. So even if they're not in your network, you can send them a message. But it's described as the best version of LinkedIn for anyone that's interested in sales prospecting, thanks to its many features, specifically or especially designed with this in mind. So there are different variants of this: the professional, the team, the enterprise. Some of the professional one is the first one. It's $80 a month. They do give you a free trial for a month, so you can try it out. When I first started using Sales Navigator, it seemed like a great tool for me, but I didn't find that I was, some of these things, so LinkedIn prospecting requires you to take specific time, dedicate specific time to doing outreach. And so one of the things I found is I would get going with LinkedIn, but I wouldn't be consistent. So I wouldn't take that hour or 2 hours a day to really do my prospecting and outreach. Maybe I would a few times a week, come back to it. And so like I would try out Sales Navigator, I'd do the free trial, but then I found I wasn't really taking advantage of it. And so then, I didn't move forward with it. But then when I started doing some real major lead, lead generation, and I'll show you a system that I used, it all integrated really well with Sales Navigator, and so I was using it, and so it was definitely worth the $80. So the features for it are the first one is the lead builder. It's a feature in LinkedIn. It makes it really easy to reach out again to your target audience and to use different filters like geography, industry, company, seniority level, title, function, relationship, company size. Now with LinkedIn Basic, you have some filters as well. You can search people by connection type or group or company, but this advanced lead search in Sales Navigator is like putting your search on a turbo. So it really works well. And it also lets you segment leads using more definite search criteria that's not available in the free LinkedIn account. So it increases your chance of not only finding more targeted leads, but also picking up valuable specifics about them, which you can leverage. Like I said, being able to pick out things from their profile or specifics that you can mention in your conversations, which will bring together, bring you together in a conversation that you can move off of LinkedIn. The other thing is you have this save as a lead type function. So, and you don't have this, unfortunately, in the free version, but so you create a targeted search to identify your ideal prospects. And then you save that as an option in a separate section of your dashboard. So, so this means that you'll have all your leads in one easily accessible location. And the other thing is that you'll be getting then updates about those specific users, so that's kind of a bonus. And this allows you to focus on your leads, and warm them up by commenting or liking their updates before ultimately converting them into customers. But before that, of course, you're moving them into this off LinkedIn conversation. And then, like I had mentioned, in mails, you're allowed a certain amount. So with a basic Sales Navigator account, you get 20 monthly in-mails. And so this allows you to send emails directly to people that aren't in your network. And they're great. Like, I'm going to take a sip of water here. My mouth is getting dry. So, and again, feel free to ask questions, or, like Heather, if there is something specific that comes up, feel free to ask it. I now can see my other screen. I can see when someone's asking a question. So it's great. In-mails are great for, for engaging leads and other parties of interest, influencers, for example. So questions. So are there any questions so far on, on Sales Navigator or messaging? If not, we'll kind of move along. The time is really flying by. So the other thing that's really helpful about Sales Navigator is that you have all this training available. So lynda.com is now LinkedIn Learning. And I used to work in, I had a space at Rise and Grind down at Planet Perk. And there's a person that I worked with that did LinkedIn. He was the LinkedIn Learning, or one of the people that put together the LinkedIn Learning. So he worked remotely. I forgot where his office might have been, in San Francisco or something, but it was interesting. So there's a ton of learning. Anything that you want to learn, whether it's software development, design, business, photography, even about lead generation on LinkedIn. So there's just a ton of information that I think is really valuable. And you can always, again, start a free month. So you can start a free month and see how it works. Now, going a step forward, further then, in my LinkedIn lead generation systems that I put together, I do use some automation. And so, what I found is that, for me, I needed to create a system where I could send out those 100 invites a day, and then, respond to people that connected, and find a way to do that. Now, automating messaging, in LinkedIn, I mean, it can be, you have to do it very carefully, because you don't want to come off. It's really to come off like a robot, and not human, because you're not. I mean, you've set up this automation, and and people, they understand, when there's not a human that's sending them a message. I worked in social media with some health brands, for quite some time, and we had it was Facebook and Twitter, and but we had an email as well. I think they had this on there, but what they did was they set up bots, that would filter out the messages. So someone would ask a message in Facebook, and then a bot would interpret that message, and if it could, send out a generic reply, it would, and the idea was that it would filter down the number of people, that really needed human help. And I think you see this more and more these days, but and so the goal then was, when I was interacting with people, on Facebook, about whatever problem they were having or question they had about, whatever health brand I was dealing with. The idea was to be human and genuine. And part of that is using genuine and human and warm, fuzzy words. Not always fuzzy, but, depending on your brand voice. Sometimes, you need to be more professional. Sometimes, you need to have more colorful words, that you're using. Again, it just depends on your buyer persona and your brand voice. And so, like, when you're doing automation, it's, you're trying to add that, I guess, that fuzziness, or the warm words that don't sound very robotic, but you have to be careful with it. So Growth Lead, now it's called Sales Flow. It's the tool that I used, and there's many that you can use, including Linked Helper is a free version where you can, it helps you. It's actually a browser plugin, so it's a Chrome browser plugin, a Linked Helper, and it helps you, be able to invite more people, to organize them. What I used was this Growth Lead. And this is what they say. They say, LinkedIn has over 660 million professionals, 90 million decision makers. What they do is they enable you to take your personal LinkedIn profile and turn it into a lead converting sales machine. This is their copy. It was simple to use. It is simple to use. It has advanced features. It connects with Sales Navigator, so you need to have a Sales Navigator subscription with it. But it allows you to put together kind of an automation, and we'll take a look at what that would look like. So for automation, when you're doing messaging, it does depend on your goal for the campaign. You have to ask yourself, at what point will you take over this conversation manually? So when I first started out with Growth Lead, what I did was I sent out automatically 100 invites. So I used Sales Navigator that was in my dashboard for Growth Lead, and I was able to then do my search, my targeted search with all my demographics. And so I was able to find a group of maybe 5,000 to 10,000, leads. I put together my messaging, and then every day it sent out 100 invites. It was like the maximum that they could send out. And it also, you could select that, and you could select the time of day and the day that you sent those messages out. You could have multiple campaigns going, and then you would also create your messaging, for that, and the timing of your messaging. So what I did was I would send out the 100 invites a day, and then when they connected, then initially, I would send out a connection saying, thanks for connecting, and blah, blah, blah. I would tell them a little bit about myself. And, but then what I found out was they responded better after the connection, if I just was manual about it, if I intervened and took over manually, like, thanks for connecting. And then I was, a little bit more human. So, you try different things to see what's going to work for you. If you want to send automated follow-up messages after they accept your invite, make sure you keep the messages short and encourage them to schedule a short call with you. So that has been very effective for me, is having them, here's my Calendly link. I'd like to learn more about you and what you do. I've used words like, your profile is intriguing. It's kind of a word, but there's just different things you can say. So now it's important, though, when possible, it's always a good practice to take over, like I said, the conversation manually as soon as possible, because they know, your connections know instinctively that it's automated. But again, what automation helps with is that, again, that 80-20 rule. So there's some people that are going to be a natural, have kind of a synergy, that are going to be looking for what you have, and there's others that are not. And so sometimes working through that, might be something, worth checking this out. So again, test, adjust the messaging that's based on performance. If you start getting negative comments, like, I know that this is a bot, or just people are turned off, then change things up. So change your messaging up, change at what part in the process you take it over manually. So here's an example of a first follow-up, and this would be something sent a few hours after accepting the connection. And this is kind of a longer one, but anyway. So this is, hi, thanks for connecting. Just to introduce myself, I'm so and so. I only got 7 minutes left, so I gotta keep going here. What resources so this would be kind of a company that provides resources to entrepreneurs and startups, and so basically, after, it's a matter of again, asking them for input. Can we schedule a quick 15-minute chat, see if we might be able to help each other, just a quick few minutes that works best for you, or go ahead and schedule on my calendar. So this would be an example of a second follow-up. So like maybe 4 days out, you can schedule this, to go out at that time. I don't know if you had a chance to think about my last message, so I thought to follow up. As we develop our programming and the specifics of our memberships, it's critical we understand what people like you need. So a live call is always best. Do you have time coming up for a quick call? So, and then this I called kind of the final ditch approach, and it's just kind of an upfront ask. I imagine you're probably too busy. I can definitely understand. Again, getting into the idea of entrepreneurs and business challenges. So in this last ditch one, you're being a little bit more upfront about what you provide. So, and then being very direct about, are you free tomorrow morning, or are you free tomorrow? Trying to be very direct about that. So those are the messages that I used with, it's a company here in Oshkosh and Appleton, world headquarters. You might have heard of them. So what we did was we set up this automation, 100 invites a day to a specific group of people. It had the invitation message, the connection message, the 4-day message, the 9-day message. After a couple months, we did find that we started to get some, not real positive comments, with all of the messaging. So we turned off the 4-day and the 9-day messages and just had the connection message. But basically, we were able to set up 45 calendar appointments a week with 15-minute exploratory calls, 4,500 new connections over the 3 months. And then at the same time, part of the strategy that goes along with this would be curated articles and posts on LinkedIn with a strategic video, which is what we're going to talk about next week. And we'll get into that because there's very specific video content that you want to use. And we'll talk about graphic posts as well and text. But basically, with this, you're able to fill your pipeline and they're ready then for sales closing. So closing thoughts in this last 5 minutes, and then we'll have, a couple minutes for questions at the end. But, LinkedIn is very effective for B2B and B2C in targeting the right people with your product or service. Now, LinkedIn has always been known as kind of a place where you recruit for jobs, or you job search, or if you're a recruiter, you find people for jobs. And it's also really been well known for B2B. But it's also becoming a place for B2C as well. So, there's a lot of influencers, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn, and they're also purchasing things for them personally as well. So it's not just about, when people are on LinkedIn, they're locked in this zone of, okay, it's all business. I mean, there are people also, people looking for whatever services. So maybe they're looking for my holiday keepsake video, because they want to give a great Christmas present this year or whatever. So they, in fact, LinkedIn is my market of choice for that type of thing, as well as, for video marketing services. And like I said, Facebook, does well also, but, again, I think wherever you can really dial down and target specific demographics, I think those are great platforms. It's really essential to be non-salesy, engaging with other users and offering some type of value up front. So, doing educational type videos, providing education and content, like in tips series, those are really effective, for, video or for content. Once engaged, work to continue that conversation off of LinkedIn, such as through email or text. And I think people are starting to do that more automatically, where they're like, well, let's continue this conversation off of LinkedIn. Here's my email, that type of thing. And then take those connections and add them to your CRM, whether HubSpot, Salesforce, or whatever, to manage those conversations. So that works really well for lead nurturing. So next week, we'll discuss integrating strategic video with your LinkedIn campaign. We'll look at that specifically. Before I jump to questions, we'll do that at the very end. But if you want me to look at your LinkedIn header and profile and give you a little bit of an audit, be sure to send that to me at imagineroadmedia@gmail.com. And so what I'll do is I'll just take a look and I'll give you some comments on it. And also I do offer free consultations, so you can schedule one and I can talk to you about, what you're looking for and, specifically how a LinkedIn lead generation type campaign could help you. And I could give you some advice and guidance on that. So just, you can go schedule 15 minutes on calendly.com/imagineroad. And the resource I wanted to mention is Wayne Breitbarth. He's a great educator for LinkedIn, and he has a book called The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success, and you can get it at powerformula.net. I highly recommend him. So, and I'm not sure if John is back. It looks like we're right at 9 o'clock, but are there any final questions? The time went so fast. My mouth is so dry, but it's always strange talking to like a blank screen where it's like no one's listening to me, or whatever. But
I'm listening, Mike.
oh, there you go. Like John's listening. He's in the room.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am back. So, and I caught a good share of it, and it sounds like you got through your the questions that you had. So I
Sure.
you taken up that, and it sounds like
Oh, we have a couple questions, it looks like.
yeah, there's somebody's asking
Oh,
about
will the slides
be
be available? Yes. What I'll do is I'll send them as a PDF. So, well, thanks, Greg. I appreciate you saying thank you. But I'll send them as a PDF. This first portion is going to be separated out. So, right after I'm done here, I'll convert the slides to a PDF. And if we can send those, John, to everybody, that'd be great.
All right, we will certainly do that. Again, well, Michael, thank you for putting this program on. Next week, Wednesday, is our second session on this topic, and we'll be focusing more on using video marketing with LinkedIn to set up funnel type systems to capture, nurture, convert leads. So that's a must see TV. I guess this is kind of TV, isn't it? So.
Right.
I mentioned before, we are recording this. We will have it posted on our website probably within the day, maybe probably before for noontime. So with that, thank you for joining us, and we will be signing on again next week at this time. So thanks again.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody.